We just assume that people are watching our show, but also listening to the podcast while doing something else. It's also
love making.
Yep, that can happen.
Let's just say it. Let's just come out and say it.
Well,
love making.
My name is Clayton Davis. I'm the Chief Awards Editor of Variety, and welcome to this live taping of the Variety Award Circuit podcast. It is just like the Eras Tour, except I don't get $2 billion. I'm not singing, and I won't bring up my exes. All right, today's episode is a special edition live from South by Southwest, presented by our partners at YouTube. We were excited at the opportunity to interview YouTube's biggest stars, and that is what we are about to do. So let me call them out one at a time, and we can have a chat. The host of Hot Ones and Chief Creative Officer at First We Feast, ladies and gentlemen, Sean Evans. We have the hosts of Good Mythical Morning and founders of Mythical Entertainment, Rhett, McLaughlin, and Link Neal. And the host of Waveform Podcast, Marques Brownlee. Guess you're wondering why I called this meeting with all of you today. I'm gonna chat with you. Let's talk about some nice little highlights that we are celebrating. In April, YouTube will turn 20 years old. I, too, am 20 years old. This is a big deal for me as well. YouTube has offered a platform for all of you to let your voices be heard, give your weird ideas that some people think are weird, but actually they're just fun. I heard a creator once say, we were this growing up, you guys just all thought it was weird, and now we put it online, and now you're like, oh, you're really cool. Like, we were cool the whole time.
Exactly.
Can you talk about just this moment in time for you and where you pictured your life at this point initially? What would you be doing if you weren't making YouTube videos?
I personally have no idea. Like, I've done so many laps around any expectation I ever had for myself, and crashed through all of these ceilings. And I think the highest I ever dreamed was like maybe I'd be a producer for a drive time radio show, doing like 670 The Score, ESPN 1000 in Chicago. I never dreamed that it would be on camera and that we'd have this talk show that has somehow broken containment and made it this far, even to the cover of a magazine this time around. So it's just really been an amazing thing. And I'm just constantly blown away by the magic carpet ride of it all.
yeah, where we come from, the idea of an entertainer was this guy that came to our middle school dances, and he could do magic, but he was also a DJ. Right.
He had a guitar. He had a guitar, right?
Yeah, occasionally.
And he would fake strum it. That we were like, we can do this.
Yeah, right. So we kind of thought we'd be doing that.
Individually?
I'd be the magician and he'd be the DJ,
Oh, okay.
but we would both have one guitar that we strummed.
If you're waiting for the honest answer, that was it. But I will say, I also wanted to be a weatherman because, I mean, I saw him on television every night, and when the state fair came to town, I guess the state fair didn't move.
Came to state.
When I went to the state fair, he was a celebrity there.
Right, yeah.
Can you describe the weather of today just for us, just one time?
It's a balmy 77 already. I'm shocked. I went outside for a second, then I had to retreat back in. So wear your spaghetti straps.
I love it. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Mark.
I was always into tech. I went to school for tech. I kind of pictured when I was going to school for tech and business that I would be the person that actually today is the one who is like coordinating with the creators and the YouTubers, who's like managing for one company. I thought that's where I would be. But this new thing has been doing really well. So that's where I'm at.
Podcasts used to be frowned upon in this industry. People used to use it as like, oh, you only have a podcast. But now they're one of the largest growing successful platforms that are existing, with people also venturing out of just audio into video. podcast, which is hence you can see us right now as you're watching this. How has that changed the game for you in terms of the content that you deliver? And obviously, your ideas were initially conceptualized as video, but what do you miss when you don't add video to that aspect of it? Can you talk about how that's just made your better?
I can speak to that. So I have a channel that does like tech videos, and they're very highly produced. And then I also have a podcast that lives on YouTube. And the idea behind starting another channel for that was people are so used to this production, and it's edited and it's very curated, that they wanted a more casual version of like digesting some of the same tech stories and topics. And so I actually started an audio-only podcast for that. And diving into that world, I quickly learned how terrible discoverability is with audio-only podcasts. And so the natural thing to do was, okay, we're going to do YouTube. We're going to obviously put this on YouTube. It'll be a video show. And it's gone every bit as great as we expected. People want to see us talk about tech. And so it's a much more casual chat show type of thing. And it's filled the gap. It's filled the void of what people were hoping for more of, in addition to the typical, very produced videos that we make.
One of the things that podcasting did for culture is it changed the way people entertain themselves. So you're usually doing something else while being entertained. And growing up, that really wasn't how you sat down in front of the TV and you watched it. And now you like vacuum or work out. Or when we're doing GMM, we literally have a guy that we address. Is it Jerry? Barry. Barry's always vacuuming, and there's probably a guy named Barry. We've made so many episodes, we probably have accidentally addressed him while he was vacuuming at some point and freaked him out. But we just assume that people are watching our show, but also listening to the podcast while doing something else, right? And so I think that it's also
love making.
Yep, that can happen.
Let's just say it. Let's just come out and say it.
Well,
love making.
I would say based on those clips, that might. I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're into.
Two middle-aged men just going,
yeah.
Think about it.
So I think that has the podcasting world sort of put that pressure on all of us to, when we first started, we were like, you can't go over 3 minutes. You don't want to put a video up for more than 3 minutes. And now, if you're going to take the time to make a video, why would it only be 3 minutes? It's a completely different world.
Well, it was always going to be a visual show, just because people are eating scorching hot chicken wings, and that's a lot of the fun of it. But I think what's amazing about YouTube and having the show on YouTube was it wasn't a big hit at first, and who knows if we were on a network or it was a more traditional TV show, like maybe Hot Ones would have been canceled before it got a chance to find itself. And it's also amazing because this started off as just this skunkworks freak show that me and Chris were working on. And there was no network notes. We weren't bound by anything. It could just be our own creativity expressed through the videos that we were making. So in that way, it's just something that I look back on and I'm thinking like, oh, well, without this platform and without this moment, without this opportunity, and it all coalescing with the way that consumer behaviors changed and people started to look to the internet more as a way to entertain themselves with the shows that they were watching. We were just right place, right time, right passion, right enthusiasm, and somehow it all worked out.
I have a question for you individually here, Sean. There's a saying when big successful ideas happen, keep it simple, stupid, right? Like such a simple concept of eating chicken wings and talking. And a lot of us, I'm sure, had this feeling of like, I could have thought of that, right? Like it seems like such a simple idea, but you made it work, and you make it work because of you. Explain how did you end up finding the rhythm in that? And are you grossed out by chicken wings outside of the show?
I try not to say anything rude about chicken wings because chicken wings have been very good to me. But I don't think that, if I'm at a Super Bowl party, it's not exactly something that I'm reaching for. But Chris had this idea, well, what if we interviewed celebrities by having them eat increasingly spicy chicken wings? It was just such a Cupid's arrow into my brain. I immediately recognized the potential of it all. But also, too, there was all these unintended consequences and things that worked out as a result. So originally, we were just trying to disrupt the PR-driven flight pattern that a guest walks into the studio with when they're on a press tour, and we just thought hot sauce would be a good disruptive element to introduce into a situation like that. But I also think that there's this shared experience of having a meal with someone. I think when you're fighting off the hot sauce, it's not only that you're surviving, but you also forget the formality of being in an interview setting. You forget about the idea that there are all these cameras pointed at you. So I think it just allows for a more honest side of the person and definitely takes them out of whatever mindset might have been inhibiting them if they were to say be on, the Today Show that morning or doing some other show. So I think all of those things work together to create this, like what's it like to have a beer with this person talk show that people have been trying to invent forever. And I think we just kind of accidentally cracked the code on it.
Rhett and Link, what I love about Good Mythical Morning is that you tell celebrities, which PR people tend to hate this, but it's okay to be silly. Can you talk about like getting celebrities to come into your space and be able to not be so serious about a project they're working on and just like kind of let loose for a little while?
It's been quite an evolution, right? I mean,
Yeah.
We've done 12 years of the show, over 2,600 episodes at this point, and so we're always trying to learn. And when it comes to the celebrity guest component, that's been really interesting for us. For one, we went on this journey of like, what draws an audience in? What's the best thing to go into thumbnail? Do we need the celebrity in the thumbnail? It's like there's so many dynamics going on here. But then the way that we interact with them, I think, as we have learned from our audience that our sincere relationship, friendship being on display behind that desk is something that we're now including our audience in. It's I don't want to say intimate relationship because that would make it weird, and I don't do that. I don't make things weird.
Right.
But you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
I'll
I'm
let
not
you
going to
talk.
pick it up. I'm just going to make another point.
My point is that we learn to invite celebrities into that environment where we're legitimately giving each other shit or connecting with each other and sharing it with that one mythical beast on the other side of the lens. And I think that's why they're tapping into it.
Well, and I think it helps. You can tell when someone has watched the show. Obviously, if they are already a fan, it makes a huge difference. And then the fans really pick up on that. I mean, some of the best, Post Malone has been on twice. And the first time he showed up, we had heard that he was a fan, but you always hear that because there are people say that they're a fan. That's just, so you're just like, well, I'll take that with a grain of salt. But when he showed up and he was calling out people behind the scenes, producers by name who maybe been on the show a few times, you're like, oh, actually, he is a fan. He was like, yeah, I watch it before I go to bed every night. And so then it was just like, it was like three friends hanging out. And so those are the best interactions when it's somebody who really understands the ethos of the show and our friendship. But then you
But
find...
would we turn down Bill Murray or Lady Gaga?
No, we wouldn't. Well,
No.
we had a complete opposite end of the spectrum. We had Ted Danson on this year. And so, Ted's not watching us before he goes to bed. And that's fine. Right. And, but you could tell he had watched like one episode. Somebody had prepped him to watch one episode. And he got it and he immediately understood that like, I'm supposed to be kind of chill. I'm supposed to kind of be like, I'm not supposed to look like I'm trying too hard. And you see in the comments, people respond to that like, Ted Danson's so cool. He's not trying too hard.
That's the gift that we give to Ted Danson.
Right.
That's what it's made for. Marques, what YouTube has done brilliantly for 20 years is remove the guardrails for anyone to kind of step into the space without pitching yourself to everyone in Hollywood and say, I have some really good ideas about a tech show and it could be cool. And them saying, no one wants to hear about tech. But then YouTube allows to show that a lot of people love tech and they want to hear people talk about it. Can you talk about getting that chance to build your audience and be in this space without having to go through the traditional roads of becoming famous?
Yeah, well, the first thing is this wasn't a real job. When a lot of us started, this wasn't actually a thing that people aspired to do. It was kind of just like, oh, it's a hobby. I'm going to make videos and share my passion for tech and maybe review of the laptop I already bought or something like that. So the community that was drawn to what I was making organically was sort of an accidental byproduct of that. And because of the discoverability of it, people continued to snowball towards it, and then it became what it is. But the other thing I've noticed about all of our stories is there's that human element of it just humanizes, whether it's celebrity guest or creator making a video, it's just another person. So whether it's like the celebrity goes on to Hot Ones and you're like, I haven't really seen this person in any environment other than being a tennis player or whatever it is, and now I get to learn the person a little bit. It's very humanizing. The same thing going on Good Mythical Morning, like I'm introduced to a new part of this person, and that's true if it's just no celebrity, if it's just a person. You get recommended a video, you watch the video, you're like, damn, I actually agree with a lot of what this person's saying. This is cool. I'm going to follow this one person who I've never heard of before. And so it kind of brings everyone to the same level of these are all humans. These are all people with interests and ideas and thoughts and takes. And they can share them on YouTube, and they can decide to jump on someone else's show, and we can all chop it up together and share these ideas. But I think that's the thing that I've noticed that we kind of all have in common with this.
I mean, the creator energy certainly comes through. I think that really translates to an audience, that they can tell that there's somebody behind this, there's some passion behind this, and there's an added layer of connection that YouTube has always implied.
I always wanted to know, this is maybe a silly question, are there like creator turf wars? Are there like, you took my user that was always on my channel all the time? Are you guys aware of like users that you share? Is there your favorite commenter on any of your channels that you think are, bots or of the other guy?
I do. I think.
See?
No, I think the rising tide lifts all ships thing is true. Back in the early days of YouTube, I've told this before, but like, it was enough to stand out to be the tech channel. And there were like 3 or 4 of them in 2008, and so being the tech channel was like, I know what that channel is. And then a few years later, when there were 50 or 100, it was like, all right, I am the computer software tech channel, because there's so many tech channels. I want to stand out in my own little way, and so we sort of niche down. And now it's 2025, and there are endless channels. There are the negative MacBook unboxing channel. Like, that's a person who does just that. It's not necessarily stealing a viewer from someone, but it's sort of organically finding someone who hasn't been spoken to yet and speaking to them and bringing them on YouTube and creating an audience that gravitates towards that thing. So everyone can do that. And then everyone comes to YouTube, and then everything grows, and people they're on everybody's channels at this point. So it's kind of everybody wins.
Yeah, and I kind of embrace the competition of it all too. It's not like I'm entitled for an audience to watch the show. It's like you have to just scratch the itch that they're looking for. And if somebody else does it better, that's kind of just entertainment. It's just a competitive landscape, especially these days, where people can do whatever they want with their eyes and ears in a really cost-effective way. So I think it's just never taking this audience for granted, even if you've built up this massive subscriber base that's never really built in. I think that you always have to be sharpening the tools in order to satisfy this audience that depends on you for whatever reason, the escapism that they get from it. They watch the episodes with their wife or their husband or their family. They eat wings along. Like, all of these things, like, if you just stop delivering to them, then you don't deserve that view anyway. So I think that the competition is good, and will just help you work to whatever form you're trying to get to anyway. I think if I look back, like 5 years, or like when we first started, and the growth, not only in the show and in the channel, but also in myself as a broadcaster, that's all been important, but the audience has always motivated that. And it's the fear of losing them that motivates that.
They're in burnout. That's the flip side of it that we all deal with too, because this is the world that we live in. And I like your mentality, and I think that's it. It's a hard game to play for a long time. I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, and it's not just proud of us, but our team, because they've been a key to us creating everything, including the sustainability on a platform that has become so competitive. And I think it's just that not letting up and trusting the right people and hiring people like Stevie and Jacob and Brian in the room today. And, so I'll leave it at that.
Shout out again to Stevie, man. Stevie's star of this podcast today. Because you're on the Award Circuit podcast, I have to ask you. Emmys are coming up, and YouTube has been in this very interesting middle ground of the Emmy space. And Emmys, the last few years, have tried to evolve with the times. Everyone's consuming content differently. We know this. But it was only like just last year we got Sean submitted onto the talk series, in the talk series category, to even be considered. Rhett and Link, you went into short form. What is something you want to see in that space of awards and recognition? I know you guys don't do this for awards, but it'd be nice to get a statue once in a while. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think at this point, And Link, I've heard you talk about this before, and Rhett, I've heard you talk about this before, but the production side of things is flattened so much that you can't really tell the difference between, like what's on ABC and what's on YouTube. And then I think outside of that, when you look at the guests that we book, when you look at the size of the audience that we've built, when you look at the show's place in culture, it's absolutely worthy of comparison with all these shows that do get nominated in that category. So if it doesn't happen this year, it doesn't happen next year, it will happen eventually. So I think at this point, it's just about putting out the best possible show that you can make, having confidence that you do belong in the category with those people, and then just seeing if the award shows kind of catch up with the times and the ways that audiences have changed and evolved over just the last 10 years that we've been doing the show. So it would be awesome. My number one priority will always just be to deliver the best possible show that we can make and satisfy this audience that's been so loyal to us for so long. But yeah, it'd be nice to get nominated.
Yeah, we have a wall filled with streamies and webbies and shorties.
Oh, you don't say.
There's more room there. There's something that happens at parties in Los Angeles when you go to someone's home and you find the shelf.
The shelf. That's right.
Oh, there's the shelf with the Emmy on it.
So what he's saying is we are only doing it for the Emmy.
No,
like,
so
we would have retired 2 years ago, I think, if it wasn't for the
I've
Emmy.
always liked trophies, but that's not really what this is about. I think our shows are in the midst of the cultural conversation in the same way that shows that are winning Emmys are. So we think that we should be recognized. But really the motivation for that is that in many ways the industry is still very behind in recognizing that we are in the middle of that cultural conversation. So, not to make it about money, but if you look at where brands are putting their money in the way that they value a set of eyeballs watching The Tonight Show versus watching Good Mythical Morning, they're just still not, it still doesn't make any sense. And I think one of the reasons that doesn't make sense for people is that brands and just the culture in general looks to the Academy to know what they think is cool. It's like, should I like this? Can I like this yet?
But if you look at the numbers,
yeah.
I mean,
Getting dunked on.
Let's talk live plus 7-day views. When you start, okay, let's speak the same language and then say, okay, if you look at the numbers, we're exceeding those of late night shows. In the 18 to 34 demo, we're exceeding them all combined. It's not even close. So, I mean, it's just, I don't like to seem like we're bragging, but I do think for creators in general, we start to get, it's like, the late night shows, we're in a category now. We're honored to be in the category, but it's the category where they're just like, we're also making digital content. So like there's this little additional thing that like the Jimmys will do. And I love those guys. Yeah. If that's the only category I can be in is to have our show be the thing that competes with their after show, I'll take it. But there's a lot to figure out, but it is an inevitability. We just got to get there. So I think talking about it and talking with each other and the Emmys has been something that's been fruitful so far.
Because did you want to add anything?
Yeah. It's always an interesting conversation. I do see a lot of. I look a lot at the Venn diagram between traditional and YouTube a lot. I do think it is a kind of a case of the award shows catching up with the times. Because if it is just cultural impact or whatever it is, we're there, right? So a lot of the questions I have are just what does the Emmy, for example, actually mean? What is that? What is the definition of what deserves to be awarded with an Emmy? I'd love to see that written down somewhere because I like you've mentioned, whether you look at the numbers or you just look at the connection that people have or how into it people get or whatever you want to measure it by, they're in the same category. Even though the Venn diagram isn't quite overlapped, I think all the stuff that we're making and all the stuff that the Academy recognizes are very much in the same category.
But the challenging thing is like, how do we get there? It's like, I think we all have to work together to figure it out because it's intimidating, I think, from the Emmy side to look and see, well, it's just an endless sea of content over there. And so I think what we're saying is that, well, we can come up with a process where you can filter a little bit and this can start to make sense, but it's getting over this initial hump, and it is happening where it's not as intimidating. It's not a big C.
A pastime of award circuit that we end all our podcasts with, some rapid fire questions. I preface this with everyone. These are the first answers that come to their head. May not be the actual answer, but we talk about movies and TV, and we want to know what movies and TV things you like that are possibly related to your show. Sean Evans,
I'm ready.
favorite comedy of all time?
Favorite theatrical comedy of all time is Kingpin. Favorite, just pure funniest movie ever made, Windy City Heat.
Rhett and Link, the posters that would be the poster of someone that would be hanging on your bedroom wall when you were kids.
The Pepsi poster. Man, I'm a sellout. I mean, but Cindy Crawford was also in it. I'm 46 years old.
I'm 47. It was Michael Jordan, Bo Jackson, and Dale Murphy.
Who was the really, also the really short, Muggsy Bogues?
I had a Muggsy, no, Spud Webb. I had a Spud Webb poster as well.
Yeah, I remember that. It was kind of on your ceiling. It's kinky.
Yeah. The roof hit my room and made my room have a...
Rhett couldn't walk into his closet without going like this.
Marquez, this is the most important question of all. The movie that accurately depicts where we're headed for in the future tech-wise.
There we go.
I know the answer. I want to know if you say that same answer.
Let's just go Blade Runner. Just aesthetics wise. I don't want to get too.
That's the hopeful
I don't want to get
answer.
too. Yeah.
I was going to say, mine is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Just saying. We know how this ends, guys. Skynet becomes aware, and it does everything. Sean, dream guest.
Oh, well, we've had so many of them over the years, but I'll say dream guest right now.
That hasn't done it yet or is unavailable sometimes.
50 Cent.
Fitty, huh? Let's talk after.
Rhett and Link, if you could bring someone back from the dead to come do your show, who would you
Jesus. Come on now.
Yeah. Wholesome content.
I'm not
What would you ask them?
completely. Have you heard the Casey Musgrave song, The Architect? I think that sums it up. That's my rec for today.
Merle Haggard. We have Merle Haggard on the wall in our studio. And right when we met his son, we got some passes so that we could go onto his tour bus. He's a country singer for the 90% of you that don't know who I'm talking about. We got passes to be able to go onto his tour bus at any time, and then he died a week later.
It wasn't our fault.
I connect those two things, though. He was like, I want to avoid those boys.
Marquez, favorite TV show from your childhood?
I'm just gonna go way back. Dragon Tales.
Oh, nice.
All right. And the final question, your message for people that want to be creators and want to get into the space and be you one day with good shirts and good pants and great glasses.
I would just say only do it if you have a pathological pull or drive to do it. If it's just something that you would do on your own anyway, I think that's something that we all share in common is this is what we love to do. We just started doing it as a hobby and it turned into a thing. And if you don't go into it for those reasons, if you're, trying to enterprise, trying to make money, trying to be famous, whatever, you will get so burned out by it. Not to say that it's like the hardest job in the world or anything, because it's not. There are actual hard jobs out there, but it does require an insane commitment, and it's in a day in and day out kind of way. And you will absolutely be burned out and miserable if you don't go into it for those reasons. So that's what I would say.
The fact that now content creator is the number one thing that kids want to be, I don't necessarily think that's a good sign for our culture. We need creators. We need people building bridges and things, not just making more content. So I would say do anything else.
I would say work the algorithm. Don't let the algorithm work you.
I like analogies, so I kind of stick with that. Once you're there, it's kind of like being on a treadmill. And burnout is when you turn the treadmill up too high and you can't keep pace and you just have to get off. And it's a balancing act of finding how high you want to turn the treadmill, where you're not falling behind, but you're not falling off. And that's not always the same pace. It's going to go up sometimes, it's going to go down sometimes, but staying on the treadmill is the thing that matters in this general job. So I think it is a balancing act, but you do have to want to be on the treadmill.
Peloton.
I enjoyed our time together, and I hope you did. Properly to take us out, usually I just sign off, but give us a weather forecast for tomorrow.
All right, guys, just get out your spaghetti straps again tomorrow, because if it passes the sniff test, it passes Weatherman Link's test. So get on out there and eat some barbecue and enjoy yourself. It's South by, baby.
It was perfect. Thank you to YouTube. Thank you to South by Southwest. My first time in South by Southwest. My first time in Austin. My first timer. And I enjoyed our time together. Once again, Rhett, Link, Sean Evans, Marquez, everyone. Here one more time for them. And thank you all for watching at home. Have a good one.